I'm sure this has happened to some of you before, where you've been in the comic book shop, you're just looking to see by chance if there's anything that might catch your eye or interest that you might have not heard anything at all before about, but you take a look and you see, oh, that looks interesting. Let's see what that's about. And then you pick it up and you kind of flip through and, oh, okay, you know what? I'll take a chance on this. That's pretty much what happened with this book. This is Thumbs #1 by Sean Lewis and Hayden Sherman. Never heard of either one of these two guys before. Never read any of their work prior to this. Not familiar with them at all. And when I saw this there on the shelf and saw how thick it was, I was like, Jesus, pretty thick book. Look at it. You know, it's got cardstock, glossy cardstock for the cover there. And the pages are they're pretty thick. And normally, I mean, I don't mind things that aren't in full color. I can deal with that. The drawing style is not one that is necessarily, it's not necessarily one I would care for, but I'm not bothered by it. It's okay for what it is, and I guess it works with the story. It's a pretty gritty story as it is. So I was like, you know what, I'll give it a shot, and I checked it out. I thought it was pretty decent. What it's more or less about is we have these kids that are underprivileged, or aka poor, live not in the best area, and there is this billionaire, this tech billionaire, that decides that he wants to give underprivileged kids free games. The other thing that he does is, the other thing about this world is there's an app that has been created that parents that are strapped for cash can basically get this app to raise their kids that are poor. You know, when you don't have a lot of money and can't raise them, you can get this app to raise the kids for you. Which is interesting in itself. But basically what happens is, with these kids that get the free games, they're basically being used. The games are used to kind of gauge, I guess, their capabilities in order to train them to become a part of a private army. So this is definitely, I guess, what you would consider be a dystopian future for sure, where these kids that are, again, underprivileged, poor kids, I'm sure it also includes runaway kids as well as kids who were probably abandoned, but they get the ability to be trained, and they get to be a part of this, like I said, this private army where they're going to be trained to be, I guess, a private army that ends up overthrowing, at least the way it seems from what is said in here, is the intent is to, I guess, overthrow the government of all things. They're being used as tools, basically, for this person's agenda. So, and that person, by that person, I believe it's the tech billionaire that's behind everything. The guy that's got tons of money. I think he's planning some kind of coup of the government, or at least that's the way it seems from what is being told here. Although I guess I'll know a little bit more once I read the second issue. But like, this is what I was saying before, the kind of stand-in parent, a program that basically takes care of the kids because the parents don't have the money to. So it's crazy. Yeah, they interact with it like if it were an actual parent. But the only, this kid, the main kid in this, his name is, they call him Thumbs. That's his nickname. That's his online gamer tag. Obviously, he's good at what he does. He's got his little sister here that he takes care of. It's the only real person in his life at this point. And they look at this billionaire guy as kind of like, oh, he's this good guy. He wants to give technology. Technology should be free to the masses and all that. But there's some kind of agenda behind there, because again, they're being trained as a private army with pretty much the intent to overthrow the government. So what ends up happening is the kid Thumbs, he ends up getting him and I believe the girl's name is Nadia, if I'm not mistaken. They end up getting language there. They end up getting recruited into this, into the elite. They end up being the elite of the kids that they're testing against, right? There's a bunch of kids, and they kind of get down to the final two, and they become the final two, him and her, and they get the ability to go to what's called the Victory Fortress or something like that. If I'm sure I'm mistaken about it. But basically, that's where they'll continue their training to become even more elite, and they'll also get schooling and things like that. Supposedly, they'll basically get the best type of training and knowledge to become as elite as they possibly can, or at least that's the idea. But things aren't always as they seem, and that's something that as you progress through the story, you find out. What ends up happening, though, is that Thumbs, he's just a kid. At this point, I believe he's only 15 years old, and he ends up getting to go to this. Victory Fortress, Fortress Victory. That's what it is, and he's just trying to save his sister. They have his sister, and it's almost like he's forced to be a part of this in order to save his sister. What ends up happening, though, and that's what happened kind of at the very beginning, so I'll go back here for just a sec so y'all can see this. But all this right here in the beginning, when it starts off with him being injured and just kind of, he's in critical condition, and basically he's shifting, he's kind of shifting in and out of consciousness a little bit, but they're able to replay through the girl's monitor to see what exactly happened to him. He gets critically injured. They bring him back to base. He's put into a coma, an induced coma, and basically while he's dreaming, more or less, it's basically a flashback of what kind of led up to everything here. And by the time he gets up, several years have passed. I think something like it's like 5 years have passed. 5 or 6 years have passed by the time he wakes up. And I'll get to that point real quick here. And that's the interesting part. He wakes up and sees, oh gosh, how long was I asleep? And how old am I now? And it's been about like 6 years since he's been out, and he's awakened because something has gone wrong. So he was comatose for all this time until he could be, I guess, fully healed. And he wakes up to disarray, has no idea what's going on, what's become of Fortress Victory, and what happened to, I guess, the other kids, and obviously what even more like what happened to his sister, what's going on. So it's just like, it's an interesting story. I liked it. I thought it was right for $5. I thought it was a good read. Like I said, don't know where it's going to go, if it's going to be interesting, but I kind of tend to like stories of these dystopian type of futures, and this one has a little bit of an original twist to it with the whole tech aspect to it, because when it's one of these books that makes you try to think, like, what if a big tech billionaire decided to do something like this, right? Something that could really influence people. You could honestly see maybe somebody within the realm of social media or things like that, or being able to possibly do something like this, maybe give away some kind of technology or some type of app that essentially would kind of curry good favor with people and maybe brainwash them into doing stuff for them, right? Not that I'm saying necessarily that's what happened, but it's the allure of it, the allure of like, hey, look, this technology, this gaming technology, these drones, these things like that, this should be free to the masses, especially to the underprivileged. And it's like, it's basically rewarding people with free stuff to kind of gain that loyalty with them. And then you see that it's he's using these underprivileged people, these people that are in these desperate situations. He's trying to win their loyalty, or at least everything that's presented in this. I mean, unless there's a good reason why he's doing all this, but it's basically to win the trust of these people, especially kids, at the earliest possible age that you possibly can, because that's when you're most impressionable as a child. And if you have absolutely nothing, I think it's pretty easy to kind of win that loyalty over. And that's the sense I get from this story here, is that's the whole point, is to win that loyalty over while they're still young, so that he could use them for his own means. Now, whether or not that's truly to usurp the government, because the government itself is that evil and it's to rise up and try to set things right, I don't know. But it's a very it's a very interesting thought. Like I said, something that's original that I hadn't seen in other books before. So that was part of the intrigue for me to check this one out. So this one's okay. As far as where the series goes from here, I don't know if it's going to take a turn into something that I really don't like. So I don't know if I'll review the next one, just depending on once I've read through it to see where it's going. I think I'll get a better sense of where it's going then. But this one's okay. Like I said, something new, something original, I think, something different. So if it's something that intrigues you, check it out. Thumbs #1 by Sean Lewis and Hayden Sherman. All right, well, until next time, y'all know how it goes. The hunt continues. Take care.